That's all the prior presidents combined. He gave a speech the other day at his State of the Union address. He didn't even mention the deficit or the debt. Even as the world is reeling watching what's happening in Europe, recognizing that unless we change course, we will face that as well. And yet he has nothing to say about it. If I'm President of the United States, I'm not just going to slow down the rate of government growth. I'm going to cut government spending. I'm going to cap it and finally balance our budget. And when it comes to jobs, he gave a speech again at the State of the Union address. He talked about what it takes to create jobs. He said a lot of things that were right. He just doesn't do those things. All right? He said we need to reduce regulations. Yeah, he has increased regulations at a rate 2.5 times greater than that of the prior president. He said we needed to take advantage of all of our sources of energy. Oh, really? How about the Keystone Pipeline from Canada? I'll bring it in. He won't. He said, finally, it was interesting to hear a liberal say this. He said, for corporations to grow and expand, he said we need to lower the corporate tax rate. Lower the taxes on corporations, on businesses that employ people. And then a few weeks later, he came out with this plan, which raised taxes on business. And one of the kinds of businesses that's most important to the recovery of our economy is, of course, small business. Do you realize that there are a lot of businesses in this country that are not taxed at the corporate rate? My guess is if you go to a restaurant that you're familiar with, or perhaps an auto dealership, or you think of the different kinds of businesses you frequent, that the business doesn't pay corporate taxes, it pays taxes at the individual rate. The owner of the business is taxed as an individual on the success of the business. And therefore, if you raise taxes on individuals, you're raising taxes on those businesses. He wants to raise the top individual tax rate from 35% to 40%. What will that do? That will kill jobs in those kind of businesses. Now, guess how many jobs in America are held by people who work in businesses taxed at the individual rate? Over half. 54% of all the private sector jobs in America are in those kinds of businesses. He wants to raise taxes. It will kill jobs. I will lower taxes to create more jobs and rising incomes. I don't think he trusts us to make the right decisions for ourselves. So he decides to have a large series of bureaucrats in Washington tell us what kind of health insurance we can have, what kind of care we can receive. If I'm President of the United States, I will repeal Obamacare and stop it in its tracks on day one. And by the way, there's also a difference between us as it relates to our military. This is a president who's already announced $500 billion in cuts in the military, planning on taking out another $500 billion. By the way, our Navy is smaller than any time since 1917. Isn't that something? Our Air Force is smaller and older than any time since its founding in 1947. He wants to reduce our number of troops, even though, as you know, our troops were stretched to the breaking point in Afghanistan and Iraq. I take a very different course. My course says we need to add ships to our Navy. We need to add aircraft, new aircraft to our Air Force. I want to add 100,000 troops to our active duty personnel because I believe that American superiority militarily and a strong America is the best ally peace has ever known. This is really a campaign about great jobs and rising incomes and lowering our deficit, keeping America strong, protecting America. There's one more aspect of job creation I want to mention to you, and that relates to trade. There are a lot of folks who are worried about trade with other nations. They don't think we can compete. And they're concerned that if we have open trade with other nations, that we'll be falling further behind. The truth is, for a nation like us with the highest productivity in the world, that means output per person in America is the highest of any other major nation. The truth is that when we have trade with other nations, it's good for us. We sell more products. We do better as a society. We're able to have more stuff and have a more prosperous life. But that's only the case as long as the people with whom we trade don't cheat. And in the case of China, they're cheating. And they have a number of ways of cheating. One, they hack into our computers, our corporate computers and our government computers, and steal the designs that we have, that we've spent millions of dollars creating. They also steal our intellectual property, meaning our patents, our know-how, our brand names. Apparently there's even a store in China that it's an Apple store, you know, selling Apple products, but it's not really an Apple store and it's not really Apple products. I mean, these are the kinds of things that they do. They also manipulate their currency. They hold down the value of their currency. Let me tell you what that does. By holding down the value of their currency, it means the products they sell here and other places around the world are artificially inexpensive. And what does that do? Well, it's nice for those that are buying those goods, but how about for the businesses that have to compete with those artificially low-priced goods? It drives them out of business. And what happens when those businesses are all out of business? Why, then they raise the value of their currency. So the right course for us is not to continue to let them just walk all over us. This president said he was going to take China to the mat. Instead, they've taken him to the mat. If I'm president, I will label China a currency manipulator and apply tariffs wherever we have to stop them from unfair trade practices that kill jobs in Ohio and in America. This election is about two very different views. And by the way, all the Republicans, we're very animated about the mistakes this president's made. But let me tell you, the other guys, they spent their life in Washington, working in world of influence and in some cases lobbying and elected officials. Nothing wrong with that. Except if you want to get the economy fixed and you want to create jobs, I think it helps to have had a job. And I have. And so we're going to have a choice as to what nature America's going to be. Is this country going to be a nation which becomes more and more like Europe, with the government telling us what kind of health care we can have, telling us what kind of businesses it's going to invest in, Solyndra and Enterone and Fisker and Tesla? Or are we going to remain a nation where individuals pursue their own dreams? I believe in the principles upon which the nation was founded. I believe they are the reason we are so successful as a nation. We're the most powerful nation in the history of the earth and the wealthiest. The income per person in America is almost 50% higher than that of a European. Now, we all have the same DNA. We're all human beings. How is it we do so well? I believe it's the principles upon which the nation was founded and the people who came here seeking freedom and opportunity. That's in our DNA. I love the words and the principles selected by our founders. They said in the Declaration of Independence that the Creator endowed us with our rights, not the government. The Creator, all right? And among those rights are life, our right to life, our right to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that last phrase we tend to breeze over a bit. But the pursuit of happiness means in this country we are free to pursue happiness as we choose, not limited by the circumstance of birth, not limited by government telling us how to live our life. Instead, we may pursue happiness. This will be a land of opportunity. And by virtue of that choice, this became the place on the planet where every pioneer, every innovator wanted to come to build their enterprise, to build a better future for their family. That's who we are. Sometimes I don't think the president and his people understand that. It is not their guidance that makes us who we are. It is the guidance of the American people pursuing happiness as they know it that makes America the hope of the earth. And so I know that we face some real challenges. I mean, I see Iraq on the cusp of becoming nuclear. I see jihadists that want to kill us. I see threats from around the world, in a dangerous world. I see the Arab Spring becoming more of an Arab winter. A lot of challenges around the world. Domestically, massive debt, threatening debt. A lot of people out of work, really suffering. This campaign has shown me the best of America. It's also shown me a lot of people really having hard times, people worried about their future. But I happen to believe that if we have a president that will return to the principles that made America the nation we are, and a president who will tell the truth, and who will live with integrity. I won't embarrass you in the White House. And a president who... and a president who will draw on the patriotism and the passion and the innovativeness and the creativity of the American people, that will rise to the occasion. I intend to be that president with your help. I need your vote. Get out there and vote as many times as they let you. No, not that way. Get your friends to go with you. Get people to go with you who haven't voted yet. And if we do that, we'll take back America and keep this the greatest nation on earth. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. You're the best.